Good evening, and welcome to Believe in the Journey podcast, where I am your host, Triveda Harris. And tonight I'm going to be talking to you about understanding Chiari malformation. September is Chiari Malformation Awareness Month, and I just wanted to bring awareness to this condition, not only because it is one that I deal with, but it is because it is rare and not a lot of people have heard of it. And it is often misdiagnosed with other conditions. But before we do anything, we have to go to God in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing me here in front of each and every person that is a listening ear tonight. Let the words of my mouth fall upon the ears that need to hear, and let them have a good understanding of what Chiari malformation is. And if they do not understand, I am always available to answer the questions to the knowledge that I have. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity and to be a voice to those who are battling with this condition that there is no cure for, but you are a healer of all things, and you keep us focused on what it is that we need to do as we deal with this condition that is not an easy condition to deal with. But I thank you for this opportunity to be in front of those who are willing to listen to my journey and the information that I have to share about Chiari malformation. In your precious and holy name, Jesus, I pray. Amen. Well, as I said, I wanted to talk to you guys about Chiari malformation. And what Chiari malformation is, it is a serious neurological condition that affects the shape of the brain. And basically, when people say my brain is too big, that's basically what they're saying, is because the base of the brain is coming out at the base of the spinal cord. So it's basically sitting at the brain stem. And there are four types of Chiari malformation. um, Type 1 is the most common, and it is basically where the herniation of the cerebral tonsils fall into the spinal cord. People who have a herniation of 5.5 milli, millicentimeters, or however you say that, millimeters, they may not experience any symptoms at all, but there are some, like myself, who do experience some symptoms. It can cause extreme headaches, neck pain, balance problems, difficulty swallowing, vision disturbances, balance issues, and the list goes on. Type 2 is associated with spinal bifida. It's a birth defect that is an opening at the spinal cord that did not close during the gestational period. It's also the herniation of the cerebral brainstem, the fourth ventricle into the spinal cord, and it can cause serious neurological problems such as paralysis, breathing difficulties, hydrocephalus, which is basically like fluid on the brain. Type 3 is the rare, and it is a severe. It is the herniation of the cerebellum and the brainstem, where there is an opening at the base of the brain where it allows the brain to come down and sit on the top of the spinal cord. This can be life that threatening and cause complications such as seizures and brain damage. That is type 3. Type 4 is the least common, but it is also the most severe. It is the undeveloped or the absence of the cerebellum, and often fatal in the early infancy stages. So, usually, if a person, a baby, is born kind of, they may make it through the delivery stage, but not usually. So those are the different types of Chiari malformation. The herniation that a person may have does not signify whether or not they're going to be symptomatic or not. It just is a condition that affects each and every person differently. And you never know what you're going to deal with when you are dealing with Chiari malformation. Like I said before, Chiari does not have a cure. There is no cure for Chiari malformation. There is a decompression brain surgery that is offered to patients who deal with Chiari. And basically, what that does is it helps to slow down the progression of the condition. And it doesn't it can sometimes alleviate some of the symptoms that a person may be experiencing, but it is better for a patient who is under the age of 25 to have a better outcome, due to some of the research that I've done, is that if you are over the age of 25, the complications may be a little bit more in depth for you. So you always want to make sure that you get more than one opinion, and outweigh the options and what the outcome may be, because some people who have had that surgery that I know personally have not been able to do the things that they once were able to do before they had the surgery. And it is a long recovery period for some people after having that surgery. You do run the risk of losing your vision, having other complications like developing Parkinson's disease and things of that nature. So, whenever you are considering brain surgery in any capacity, understand that the risks are there. So never take it lightly. Some of the other symptoms that you can have with Chiari malformation is nosebleeds, slurred speech, occasional swelling, hyper and hypotension, a hoarse voice, abdominal pain, shortness of breath, facial numbness, palpitations, tachycardia, blackouts, ear pain, brain fog, phototopia, tingling in the limbs. It's a lot of different symptoms. And I will be honest with you guys. Some of these symptoms that I have experienced, and now that I'm going through menopause, they are in the same list. So I can't necessarily tell what is a Chiari symptom or what is a symptom of menopause. So it's very, very crazy when you are already dealing with these symptoms. The reason I wanted to talk about Chiari malformation not only is because I deal with this, but it is a rare condition, and most people don't get diagnosed for years. I was misdiagnosed from a child to I was 30, and I ended up having a stroke, which led to my actual correct diagnosis, because I suffered as a little girl with nosebleeds all the time. It was issues because they would think that I was getting overheated, because I did have issues with regulating my body temperature, which would sometimes lead to nosebleeds. It would be ringing in the ears, the numbness and tingling in my hands and feet. And that didn't start, the numbness and tingling did not start until I was about 19 years old. And so no one had any idea of what was causing it. They were just saying that the headaches that I was having, the nosebleeds, were just migraines, and I was just too hot and was just having the nosebleeds. And the heart palpitations, I was having those a lot. I was at a doctor's appointment, my yearly checkup, and the doctor, when they go to listen to your heart, you got to breathe and do all that stuff. And so I was doing that, and the doctor stopped and she was like, "Are you okay?" "Yes, ma'am, I'm fine. Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, but are you okay?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm fine. What's wrong?" She was like, "Your heart rate just sped up. Are you sure you're okay?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm fine. This happens all the time." I said, "It happens sometimes when I'm laying in the bed and I'm not doing anything. I'm not stressed, not worried about anything. But this has been happening since I was a little girl. So I'm not sure why you're so afraid right now. But this is normal for me." But no one ever put two and two together until after having my stroke. Um, the reason that Chiari malformation awareness is so important is because people are oftentimes misdiagnosed. And being misdiagnosed means that you hinder being able to get the necessary treatments and medications that may help to alleviate some of the symptoms that you may be dealing with. Um, it affects your jobs, it affects your relationship. It also plays a major role on your mental health. And a lot of people don't necessarily think about that or talk about that in the sense of um, Kiari, but it does affect your mental health because you're not the same person anymore. You went from being able to drive to being able to cook to being able to stand to do all of those things, and then now you are um, falling. You are having these excruciating, debilitating headaches and things of that nature. Hey, Miss Patrice, you're dealing with so much at once that you don't even know what to make of it. You're having the balance issues, you're having issues with your vision, you're having difficulty swallowing, you're having all of these different things that are happening. You never know how you're going to deal with the symptom as they come, because you could go with just having the horrible headaches and then the next day you're dealing with another symptom like shortness of breath, or you're having another symptom which is the numbness and tingling in your hands. One of the medications that they usually prescribe is an anti-seizure medication named Topamax. And with that medication, one of the side effects for that is numbness and tingling in the hands. Well, if you're already experiencing that, you're not going to know how to explain it if it, and you're not going to recognize it as being a new symptom for taking the medication, or if it's just one of the symptoms that you're already dealing with. And that was one of my issues with taking that medication, is that I had the numbness and tingling in my hands, but I was already having it, but it did intensify it to where I had to, eventually get off of that medication. The other thing is you learn to pay more attention to your body and the signals that it gives you. Also, the weather plays a major part in how you're going to deal with these symptoms as they come. You don't always think about that, but it does play a major part. So if it's about to rain, you're going to feel that. The old folks say that if you have knee pain, joint pain, or anything like that, you can tell when the rain is coming. The other thing is with dealing with Kiari, you get a lot of pressure built up in the head when the temperature is changing. For me, when it's really, really cold or it's really, really hot, it affects me in that way. And I can always tell when a storm is coming because I'm usually stuck in the bed. And this week, I have literally, with the weather changing and it being cooler in the mornings, it is hard for me because my head is hurting. So I'm usually with the heating pad or an ice pack on the back of my head. The headaches that I have are usually very difficult to deal with because it's not just a headache, it's a burning sensation at the back of my head, down my neck to my shoulders, and it hurts. It's very painful. I do not wish this on my worst enemy. It is not one of those conditions that you would want someone else to have to deal with. Um, excuse me. Being able to share the awareness and the information that I have with this condition is one that I want people to know that it's an invisible condition. Yes, I look like I am fine, like there's no issues, that I don't have any problems or anything like that. But I deal with this condition and I've been able to make it look like I'm okay, even though most days I am in pain because I have a headache. I don't know what it feels like to not have a headache. And I feel like the day that my head does not hurt, then there's something seriously wrong because I do not know what that feels like. I do not know what a pain free head feels like, if that makes any sense. So, those of you who have never had a headache, thank God for that because it is not fun at all. And I do deal with migraines, and there is a difference for me with knowing the difference between the two, because a migraine is usually going to be just on one side and it's over one eye. It could be in the center where it affects my vision. But Kiari also affects the vision. So If it's on just one side of my head, I know that it's just a migraine. If it's both, and there are days where I do deal with having both a Chiari headache and a migraine, and those are the days where my eyes my eyes hurt, my eyelashes hurt, my hair hurts, my head, it hurts to move, it hurts to breathe, it hurts to do anything, any movement hurts. And just trying to lay as still as possible is not always easy to do, but that's what I have to do to try to, you know, not cause myself any pain. Now, I love to laugh. I love to be silly, but coughing and sneezing and laughing creates a lot of pressure and pain in the back of my head. But I love to laugh. So I will not give Kiara the satisfaction of taking away my joy to laugh and to enjoy life as God has allowed me to do so. Um, as I said before, Chiari malformation has no cure. There are some medications that you can take to help alleviate some of the symptoms that you may be having. The abdominal pain, the nausea, the palpitations, the uh, tachycardia, which is basically a fast heartbeat. And that can be life threatening if it's not checked. But if you're dealing with Chiari malformation, it's going to be a difficult road to figure out what medications can help manage that. So being a advocate for yourself is very, very important when you finally get a correct diagnosis. So make sure that you're advocating for yourself when your body does not feel right and something does not feel right to you. Make sure that you are advocating for yourself, and don't just take any medications that the doctor prescribes in the hopes of saying that this is going to be a cure all. Because number one, I have met a few brain surgeons, neurosurgeons who have just been adamant on saying that they are the best at what they do. And I'm not saying that they're not. However, you can't in the same breath say to me that Chiari is not the cause of the symptoms that I'm dealing with, but at the same time tell me that Chiari is the cause. So it's like either it is or it isn't. Yes, I have Chiari, but it is not the cause of these other symptoms, when we all know that the brain is the central avenue for what your body is able to do, because the brain has to send the signals to the body, so that you're able to do what is necessary to make your body move. And so, not just allowing them to say, "Hey, yeah, I'm the best, and I'm gonna, operate on your brain and take a piece of it out, so that your brain will have more space. Take a piece of the skull, so that your brain will have more space to." Um, have this CSF fluid flow, so that there aren't any backups or anything like that. A lot of crazy symptoms. This is a little trick that I've learned over the years, and it may be a little gross, but sometimes I have not necessarily random nosebleeds. That's a different story. But if I am holding my head down, it's not allergy season, not cold and flu season, any of that. But if my nose just starts to run, that is an indication of spinal fluid. And so taking a brown paper bag, and if it dries clear, I'm okay. If there's anything other than that and it's a different color, then there's an infection somewhere and I need to get to the doctor. So learning how to cope with Kiara has not been an easy thing for me. However, it has been a journey, in to say the least, because when I first found out I had Chiari malformation, it was life changing. Number one, because I had a stroke. Having the stroke is what led to me finding out that I had Chiari malformation. So I say that my stroke was a gift and a curse at the same time. Um, because I was able to find out why I was having these debilitating headaches, why I was having the numbness and the tingling, why I was dealing with the palpitations, why I was dealing with so many of these things that no one could ever put two and two together to give a true diagnosis until I had the stroke. It is not easy at all. Dealing with an invisible illness, because people will always say, well, you don't look sick. I try to be polite when people say that, is no, I don't look sick, but they don't look stupid or crazy either. But it is what it is. People are going to say things that don't make any sense at all. But no, I don't look like what I've been through, and that's by God's grace and His mercy. He has kept me covered each and every time I've had to deal with this condition. I'm going to give you a little backstory about how this diagnosis, even though you heard me mention it a few moments ago, is that I had a stroke. However, the stroke, I was hard headed in the sense I did not believe that I was having a stroke. And so I drove myself to the hospital. Once getting there, of course, the doctors were fussing about me actually driving myself there. By the time I got there, I could not feel my whole entire left side. I never had any issues with my speech or anything of that nature. Um, and it was a hard thing to deal with, as far as being told that I had a stroke. I had three small children at the time. They were 13, 11, and 7. And so having three kids to take care of, it was a difficult thing, but I prayed and asked God to keep me covered, because I have opted not to do the decompression brain surgery, simply because I don't feel that it is right for me at this time. Um, as long as God is keeping me covered, I am going to continue to rock with His diagnosis and His instructions for me. In 2013, I had a major flare up with Chiari, and I ended up losing my ability to speak. And I lost the use of my left side again. So it was difficult. And then during that time, I was diagnosed with a condition called epilepsia partialis continuum. And basically, it's a condition that is localized seizures to one part of the body. And it could usually last for a couple of days, couple of months, and even years. And for me, it has been years. I have learned different ways to cope with not only Chiari, but with epilepsia partialis continuum. I've learned different ways and how to pay attention to my body when it's giving me signals to rest. Now, I will be honest, there are days where I'm still extremely stubborn and I don't want to sit and I don't want to be confined to the bed. So I'm still hard headed and struggle with that, but I am learning and I'm getting a whole lot better. As a matter of fact, this morning I was still in my bed at 9 o'clock, and my son, my youngest Nathan, was like, "Well, it's good to see that you are actually in the bed and you are resting. You're not up doing anything that I don't think you should be doing." But of course, my children have been my biggest support system through this whole entire journey. And having a good support system whenever you're dealing with anything that is health related does help with the outcome of whether or not it's going to be a good journey or a bad journey. So make sure that you have a good support system around you. Um, because Kiari is life changing. It is life altering. Having the decompression surgery, and if you don't have someone that's there to help you maneuver through your recovery stage, you could have some lapse, or you could, just not do too well with the surgery overall. But understand that when you do take that risk to go under the knife, that you may not be that same version of yourself before you had the surgery. But after being diagnosed with Chiari, you're never what normal is considered anymore, because I don't necessarily know what normal is for anyone outside of myself, because this is a new normal and every day is a different symptom that I'm going to have to encounter, because I never know from day to day what I'm going to have to deal with and what I'm going to have to face when dealing with Kiari, because it could be tomorrow I have a speech issue, or I could have some abdominal pain, or I could be dealing with dizzy spells, or just whatever. And they are random. They come and they go and they do whatever they want to. And each and every patient is going to deal with something different when dealing with Chiari malformation. So there is never one patient that is the same as the next one. You can know 5 different people who have Kiara, and out of those 5, they each are going to tell you something different. Some may not even have a headache. Some may not have ever experienced balance issues or issues with bowels or anything of that nature. Never dealt with any numbness or tingling, but yet they have dealt with the heart palpitations. They've dealt with the shortness of breath. They've dealt with the vision disturbances. They've dealt with the ringing in the ear. So you just never know what symptom you're going to get. And that's just like the Forrest Gump saying, life is like a box of chocolates. Well, Chiari malformation is too. Um, if you want to support someone who is dealing with Chiari malformation, there are several support groups. Conquer Chiari is one of my favorites, and chiarisupport.org is another one that I like. And of course, there's many Facebook groups, TikTok, Instagram. If you have any additional questions, if there's something that I did not cover that you don't understand about Chiari malformation, please, reach out. And if I can help, and if I don't have the answers, and if I know someone that I can direct you to, I definitely will do that. I'm going to share a video that I made about Chiari malformation on my personal page, and also in my uh, podcast group. Lord, I just went completely blank. It's about 8 minutes long. So whatever I did not cover here, just go and watch that video. But I thank you guys for tuning in tonight. My voice is starting to go, so I'm going to get off of here. But I thank you for tuning in and taking the opportunity to learn a little bit more about Chiari malformation. The color for Chiari is purple, which is why I'm wearing purple tonight. But love on somebody that has keeping judge them. And as always, remember to stay out of God's business. The only thing that He needs you to do is be obedient to what He's called you to do. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Good night.